Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.
Bacon, and I'm a community advocate here in South Charlotte. If I had my buttons on today, it would be let's get some gun control. I'm tired of looking at the news and seeing this. Black Lives Matter in honor of our friend Joel, and let's have equal rights for everybody.
This is Jenny James Gunn. I am a community advocate here in Charlotte, North Carolina for LGBT women's rights with the National Organization for Women, gun sense laws with Moms and Men Action, and anything that extends equity to all. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Christian Cano. You're the co-host. My buttons are Moms and Men Action, gun sense legislation, healthcare for all, Medicare for all, and also in my heart, Black Lives Matter on behalf of Joe Oldham, who's a guest of ours who passed away last year. That's it.
Good morning, everybody. It is Coffee and Pan Dulce time, and we have a blast from the past back here. Wow. We will be Momma Ruthless this morning, and we haven't been able to say that in a long time. We have her pretty face back on the air, and if you do watch this instead of listening to it on the podcast channels, we do have Momma Ruth back, and it's been a minute. But we're happy to have her back and welcome her back with open arms. And it's super exciting to have her and her energy and her wisdom back. And should be a fun show. And we had a special guest host last week that did really well. It was neat to have a young person's perspective. In Generation Z, a student, and how they view things. Because, they look at life different, and
we're old.
we're. I can only speak for myself.
I'm old.
I'm not going to breathe. And
that's right.
Being north of 50, and being a part of Generation X. It's interesting to hear how she viewed social media, how she viewed her and her friends, and so different than Generation X.
Very different than I thought. Yeah. We
use it as a battleground, and they, for the most part, don't. And it's I don't know if that says a lot about Generation X, that we're an angry generation, or we've got to a stage of anger, or if they're just smarter than us with technology, or both.
That's right.
I feel they're just smarter with technology, but I think our wisdom helps a lot because we're not that grouchy as they are. I feel they're more grouchier. They get mad real quick.
Well, all right. Well, we'll talk about that. But welcome back, Mom. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but I'm like, apparently you haven't been watching our show because we're some grouchy people. As Jenny said,
I know.
Okay. Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to Coffee and Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, along with Jenny Gunn, Momma Ruth. Welcome back, Momma Ruth. And Barb Bacon is off today. We knew she was going to be. Last week, her tree fell due to the winds here in North Carolina, and this week, I know she had some volunteering efforts. So we want to thank everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube, and the thousands who listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platform. But as Jenny said, we want to welcome back a face from the past. Momma Ruth, welcome so much. And I'm going to see if you remember what you used to say. So if not, I'm going to repeat it. So Momma Ruth, welcome. Let's see if she remembers.
Well, hello, everyone.
That's it. Oh, my gosh. Good job. That's it.
I am so happy to be back. I miss y'all. Y'all kicked me out or what? What happened?
No, hey, you were always.
You know what? I feel like Sleeping Beauty. I just woke up and I'm like, hey, I want to be back at Pan Dulce, Coffee and Pan Dulce again.
Yes,
I miss Jenny. I miss all of y'all.
Well, welcome back. I like your hat, by the way. Looks very, 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 very stylish.
You feel me going into almost the 50s? You know, I still got 2 more years to go, so it's like I gotta get some.
Oh, okay. You're trying to. Well, and we'll talk about your more wiser kind of comment because we'll see from voting data what we're talking about. So today's topic that we're going to be talking about actually is very timely. As Jenny, those who watch our show know that we taped Jenny's show before this, and she talked about some great things that are happening around the United States. 2024 is one of those. It's a crazy election year. A lot of things going on, and so we're going to talk about can Voto 24, can the Hispanic Latinx vote, can it save America? And the reason we want to talk about this is because around the country, people are very concerned about the presidential election, but just a lot of elections. And there are some people who believe that democracy is on the line. If President Trump gets elected again, will democracy be go into dictatorship and all kinds of stuff? And so anyway, we're going to talk about that. But before we do, only because I had forgotten, we haven't done this in a while, Jen. So whatever you're drinking, salute to our neighbors. And before we do, we want to jump directly into Barb's current events.
And this is Barb's current events.
All right, here's 3 Barb's current events, and you can comment on these if you'd like. Otherwise, you don't have to. The first one, in Florida. Jenny, let me see how many I stole from you. In Florida, I did steal this one. A huge upset for Governor DeSantis. There was a person who was running for a State House 35. When we taped this show, which would be a week behind, the Tuesday night, a Democrat won and beat DeSantis's hand-picked person who was running, and this Democrat won, and it was a big, huge upset in Florida. So that's the first one that occurred. The second one is, and this is just kind of my own humor being thrown in here. If you live in North Carolina, there is a grocery store chain called Harris Teeter. They are technically owned by Kroger, a huge national company. Well, Harris Teeter, when the pandemic started, they stopped giving away free sugar cookies to the kids. They have a box of sugar cookies that kids can take free sugar cookies. Well, they stopped because of COVID. They didn't want germs and stuff like that. Well, they're bringing it back. So they're bringing back the sugar cookies. And I want to know how you feel about kids eating sugar cookies. Because my first thing was, oh my God, all these kids with a lot of sugar. The last one is there has been, and we've actually talked about this before. There's a study that came out again. We're hearing about how all these people who live in California and New York are moving to Texas, Texas, Florida, and North Carolina, some other states. And the Texas governor and the Florida governor keep boasting about how it's so much cheaper to live in Florida and California. Well, the study that's coming out is saying that if you move from California to Texas, you will save $2,800 in your state, your income tax. However, you will pay more in property taxes and sales taxes. So people who are moving to those states are finding out it's not that much cheaper to live here because I end up having to pay higher sales taxes and higher property taxes. Plus, they're just uglier states. That's just me. Anyway, so those are the 3. Jenny, as usual, we'll let you start. What do you want to say about those 3?
Well, first of all, Texas and Florida not having an income tax also makes sure that guarantees that you're going to have the more regressive taxes, the ones that penalize the poorest people. So high sales tax, high property taxes, which affects seniors, and a lot of lower income families with higher rents and higher mortgages. You know, the more marginalized people always get affected with these policies because not having an income tax only favors the wealthy. They're the ones that will want to pay hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in taxes, like an Elon Musk relocated to Austin, Texas as a tax dodge. Let's just say what it is. He didn't want to pay the California income tax. But the downside is it's anyway money. Some way, somehow, you still got to pay for bridges and roads and schools and infrastructure and all that. There's no free lunch. And so they do this rope-a-dope, this illusion shell game with taxation and revenue. And it's one of the reasons that Florida has so many problems with high property tax or high property insurance costs.
Exactly.
There's a lot of reasons. There's a significant issues. And it's not cheap to live in Houston or Dallas anymore. Yeah. It's an illusion that rent is affordable there. There may be some areas of that, but for the most part, rent is very, very high in Houston, Texas, and in Dallas, Texas, and those areas. So a lot of that may have been true in the 1990s, maybe early 2000s. Yeah. But now it's just a pitch that really wealthy people want to move everything to Texas or Florida so they don't have to pay taxes. Yeah. And the people that get hurt over it are their employees and or the people in Texas and Florida. Yeah. And having to supplement these wealthy people's tax dodge.
Sure. How about the Florida election and Harris Teeter sugar cookies real quickly?
Well, Democrats have been on a winning streak for a while, and the 2022 midterms did not turn out the way the Republicans now. Now the Republicans have a 1-seat lead on the Democrats in the National Congress. And you saw the things in Ohio and Kansas and Michigan where Democrats and progressive issues are consistently winning. And you're seeing record turnouts with Generation Z. And they're very motivated to keep their human rights. These attacks on women and the trans and the LGBT community have galvanized young people saying, we get to pick our future as the youngest and largest generation in America. We can get out and vote. Sure. We can change this. And you've seen it happen. And the dynamic shifting, and the baby boomers aren't voting. They're not going to have as much of an influence, and neither is Generation X. Whereas the millennials and Zs are getting very politically active.
How about sugar cookies?
You're going to see that, and the sugar cookies. Let those kids have those sugar cookies. Come on, you only get to be a kid once. They're not going to get that many cookies. Okay, and they can just brush their teeth when they get home. Okay, yeah, let them have a sugar cookie. I love sugar cookies. All right. Okay, you're a communist if you don't like sugar cookies.
That's right. That's right. And I've been called a communist. All right. So, Momma Ruth, what are your thoughts? You want to comment on any of those three?
All I know, I'm taking my granddaughter to get a free cookie.
Okay. All right.
Sugar cookie. When I hear Jenny and I, we both share our stories about living in Texas, and it's very sad. I was there in the month of October. And yes, you're right, Jenny. The pay is very low right now down there. I mean, it has become, I think it's one of the top 3 states in the whole nation of poverty. Yes. And just the way they're keeping it so low, where not the middle class or the high class, but the very low income families are the ones that are suffering. It's very sad about that. So people who are thinking to go and overcrowd and overpopulate another state just by making an investment. Let me tell y'all are going to be regretting it, because y'all are just going to be hurting yourself and hurting other families.
Yeah.
And of course, down the road in Florida, I don't have no comments to that, man.
Okay. But you are for sugar cookies. So
yes.
you think, okay.
I am happy for that to be back.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the oddball out here.
I want to see it as a. Yeah. I want to see it as they stopped during our COVID season, and thanks to that, a lot of things were being prevented and not prevailing anymore. I feel that our country changed completely. So I'm glad that they're trying to bring something back to our memories, because I don't feel the same anymore.
Sure. Well, I mean, no, I agree with y'all. I just think sugar cookies are unhealthy. So, all I know.
You're gonna eat it 24/7.
No, I know. All I know is all you hear from parents and kids. Isn't it always the joke whenever you see a ratty kid running around? You're going, "Oh, he must have had too much sugar." Right? I mean, you guys were both parents, are both parents. I mean, right? I mean, don't you want to limit the amount of sugar your kids eat?
Yeah, but one cookie's not going to hurt a kid.
Yeah, okay. I'm being a grouch. Yeah.
I personally love sugar cookies myself.
Yeah. No,
I'm a big fan of the cookies, and I have the body to prove it. Yeah, and the second thing is, sometimes you got to let kids be kids. And,
good point. Yeah.
It was like when my grandmother was dying of Alzheimer's, and a doctor ragged on her about her diet, and she was drinking these little miniature Cokes. And he was saying, you shouldn't be letting her have McDonald's French fries or little Cokes. My mom looked at him and said, she's dying.
Yeah.
If she wants a fucking Coke at 85, 86 years old, I'm going to give her a fucking Coke.
Yeah. All right. Well,
and and sometimes,
sure, let them
it's
have
not
it.
as important.
Sure. Well, I agree with you. As far as the data about moving to Texas, like y'all, I used to live in Texas, and I completely agree. Jenny, you made a very good point. The people who pay the most in states like Florida and Texas, those states that brag about we don't have any income tax. The people who pay the most are the people who make the less income, because if you're poor, or if you're a working family, you have to buy groceries, you have to buy clothes, you have to buy a car, you have to buy those things. And if you're paying 8% sales tax at a grocery store, that's a lot, because you don't have an option. You still have to buy groceries. And on gas and on a bunch of things, on property taxes. You may even, as we have discussed, you don't have to own a home to not care about property taxes, because you still have to pay that in rent. The owner of the house just includes it in the rent. So if you're paying very, very high property taxes, you're going to pay higher rent because the owner of the house is not going to, so it's a misnomer.
It's what I called in the sales business anyway money. You're going to spend the money.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah,
you're going to spend a certain amount on schools per student.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Texas is run into, especially, is that their school spend is about $7,700 a student. The national average is 11,000. Yeah, they're number 44, and it's because they don't manage their money well. But it's also an income issue. Is that if you have your wealthiest taxpayers not contributing to their potential, when they're the ones that can afford an extra 5% taken from them. If you're worth $100 million, 5% is not going to hurt you.
Sure.
But if you are only making, poverty line wages, an extra couple thousand in different excise taxes and sales taxes, is the difference between skipping some meals and, being able to go to the doctor and affording a copay if you even have insurance. and
That's
things like that, or skipping medications because you can't afford the medications. And that's the difference. And poverty kills. So
yeah, I completely agree with you.
There you go.
But interesting you say that, Mama Ruth, you were talking about how you were in Texas, in October, and you noticed the overcrowding, and what is, I visited, I think, last December, and I visited before that in April, my family, and the first thing they told me was it's getting so crowded that it's just not comfortable for them anymore. And so the governor of Texas is talking about, the people who actually have lived in Texas longer than 20 years, native Texans and Tejanos and so forth, they're not happy with all the people that are moving to Texas because not only do they have so many potholes in the roads anyway, but it's just getting so crowded, and they're keeping the wages down, which means that either you make a lot of money or you don't.
Yep, that is true. I really came back disappointed looking at that. So it is very sad because they have a lot of good restaurants. They have a lot of good, but the prices are so. I wouldn't say average. I would say below average. But then the pay is so below. Yeah, it's not allowing people to be surviving. And the people. Sad.
The people who, if you are very wealthy and you make a lot of money, you're loving it because you're like, oh, this is a great state. But your average Texan is not very wealthy and does not make a lot of money, so they're not enjoying what the other people are enjoying, and
they're becoming like slaves because they gotta work 3 to 4 jobs in order to keep up.
Good point. Hey, listen, on that note, we're going to take our first break, and so we'll come back and talk about our topic. So we'll be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce right after this.
Hey, y'all, thanks for watching, and support local black and brown businesses, including our sponsor, Manolo Bakery. That has some fabulous pastries, food, king steaks, all kinds of specialty cakes, tamales, and much, much more. Some of the best food you eat in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, Manolo's Bakery, right here in East Charlotte. Thanks for watching. Hey, y'all, thanks for watching the Florida shows. They've been wildly successful. Obviously, it's a topic that you guys have enjoyed and wanted to know more of. And we like talking about the dumpster fire. It used to be the state of Florida, and we'll probably talk about it some more this summer. Thanks for watching, y'all.
Bye, y'all. Thanks for watching. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching our Coffee and Pan Dulce show every week. Don't forget, you can watch us visually on our video podcast platforms on Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us on your favorite audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of the other ones that your favorite, whatever your favorite is. Once again, thank you for watching us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. We'll dance out. Well, welcome back, y'all. And so thank y'all. That was Barb's current events. We went a little longer on that one, but that's fine because it's great to have Momma Ruth back with her wonderful hat. And so listen.
Well, we started late also, right?
Yeah, we started
late. Because I see it's 9:25, so we did start late.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. You lost my train of thought now. Who was I talking about, Jen? Okay, the topic. Okay, here we go.
Reading data.
That's right. Okay. So Voto 2024. This is a very, very important year. And I know we said this in 2020, we said this in 2022, but it really feels like this is going to be a very, it's going to be an important year for everyone. And regardless of what political spectrum you are on, the importance of this year. Jenny we've been talking about this for the last, 5 years, right. Specifically 4 years. Jenny and I have been talking about this, and we're all trying to play our little part in making sure that we educate people on who's running for office and what the stakes are, so to speak. But there's nothing more important in 2024 than the Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, whatever term you use, vote. Just a little data. In 2024, there will be, which is this year, 36.2 million eligible Hispanic, Latino, Latinx voters to vote. That is up 4 million from just 4 years ago. The Hispanic Latino vote is now the largest ethnic vote, so to speak, in the United States. And in many states, it is the largest voter, like New Mexico, California, and some other states like that. And and one of the things that we've been talking about also, kind of touching on the last couple of years, is also, in my mind, and I wish Raphael was on today, that is a low number. And the reason it's a low number is because, and hear what you have to say, Momma Ruth, and also you, Jenny, in many of these states, like Texas and like Arizona, and maybe even Colorado, and maybe even in New Mexico, there are many Hispanics or Latinos or Latinx Americans that do not check the Hispanic Latino box. They just check white because and I say this all the time, in my family, Hispanic is not a race, it's ethnicity, just like Italian. We just happen to speak Spanish or come from a Spanish culture, so to speak. And so there are many fluent Spanish-speaking people who consider themselves white, so they don't check Hispanic and Latino. So that number is, I believe.
But to
Go
be
ahead, Jen, I know
fair,
you want to say something. Yep.
people like our generation and younger were raised to speak very fluent English.
Yes.
The second thing, just like with any other ethnicity or race, your typical voter is going to be a little bit more educated. And it's no different with the Hispanic and Latinx. College education and advanced degrees in that community are at all-time highs. They've made a
not only
huge commitment to education. I know in San Antonio, for example, there was a huge commitment to getting proper educations, providing scholarships, really pushing education and going into professions like teaching, engineering. If you look at Texas A&M's graduation rates, their Hispanic graduates are very dominant in some of the major university systems in Texas. And so, I mean, I think one of the reasons they're not checking it is it doesn't matter to them because they just want to vote. They just, they don't necessarily need the recognition of that because they're just going out and voting. And they may not consider, they may just say, that's kind of just really none of your business. Doesn't have anything to do.
No, that's an excellent point, Jenny. I was going to read this other data, but Momma Ruth, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to also piggyback on that, on the Latino voting issue stuff, where sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, the ballot doesn't specify the Latino word or Hispanic. It only gives you Black, Asian, white, and that's it. So that's where we miscount our correct data, because they're not giving us our space as also a ethnicity or a, I would say tribe or whatever, just put it there.
No, that's an excellent point, and both of y'all made excellent points. And one of the things, and Jenny,
are we recording back, or we're on break still?
No, we're live. We're taping.
Okay.
Yeah, I can edit it if you don't want me to.
No, you're good.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
No, we're live. We're taping. So one of the things that Jenny and I have been talking about, it's also kind of generational. If you are a boomer, which, as she said, and Jenny, you're completely right, their influence on elections has substantially dropped just because they are no longer with us. That's the most polite way to say it. There are fewer and fewer of them no longer with us. The Gen Xers are considered to be the prime voting age, and they are between like 45 and 60, I guess, which is my generation, Jenny's generation. And I don't want to guess yours, Momma Ruth, but so they happen to be a very small group of people. So as Jenny said, even though they are the prime voting age, their numbers are so small. The millennials, older millennials, are now in that prime voting age, and the baby Zs are under normal years. People would say, get out to vote, young people, but they never come out to vote. For the last 2 elections, they are voting at 76, and Jenny has read numbers about some of the college towns. They are voting at higher percentages, and so they are washing out the Gen Xers, our generation. And when you're looking at the data,
just imagine myself. Look at myself. Yeah. I'll be 48 next month. This will be my second time voting presidential. Because remember, I started voting at the age of 40.
That's right.
So I voted, the first time, and then 44, and now this will be my second. So it's kind of crazy. Yes, you're right. The Gen Z has to not only blah blah, but they got to step up, and do their job.
Well, and they are, and that's kind of what the numbers are showing. And I think Jenny has read that data. But what they're saying is, the people who most identify as Hispanic or Latino or Latinx, whatever term you use, Tejano, Tejana, Chicano, the people who most identify are not boomers and they're not Gen Xers. They're millennials, and the younger Hispanic people are the ones that are embracing their culture. And they're the ones that are saying, yes, I'm Latino, I'm Hispanic, I'm Chicana, I'm whatever. And they're the ones that are showing up in the numbers, and they are overwhelmingly voting more progressive, and they're voting at higher percentages. So what the Pew Institute is saying is they are going to make a huge difference in not only the national election, but they will be making differences in California, Texas, Florida, New York, Arizona, and North Carolina. The young voter is going to be making a difference. And I would argue, and I'm going to hear what you have to say about this, Jenny, not only the young voter, but the young woman voter is going to make a huge difference in the next elections. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, and a couple of things in play. Republicans have worked really hard to suppress the vote in metropolitan areas in certain states like Texas, for example. And there's one of the issues, no matter who the voter is. It just happens to be there's large concentration of Hispanic communities and Latinx communities in the metropolitan areas of Texas. That's where all the jobs are, but it's also where the cities are just more fun than the small towns. And especially the young educated voter that would vote, would take the time to vote. That's where the potential is. The downside is that a state like Texas has done a very good job of voter suppression. In 2022, and in a very important election year for like governor, lieutenant governor, and all that, only 9 million Texans voted. 11 million that were eligible or registered did not.
Yeah.
And that's bad math in an important election year with a controversial governor that's not been able to keep the lights on.
What makes you think that they're not voting or we're not voting as Latinos?
Well, I think in general, and this is not just Latinos, but in general in urban areas, the turnout's very, very low, just like it is here in Charlotte. The turnout rate for Charlotte's abysmal. If Charlotte ever voted at any kind of level as much as the rural, like percentage-wise, like our turnout's like 5%, 8%. Like we struggle to get into the double digits on eligible voters actually showing up to the polls. If we ever voted at 30, 40, 50% turnout rates in Charlotte, we would dominate North Carolina politics on the state level, like for governor, for statewide or at large things. But
why do you think it makes that happen? Why those numbers things you think it's people are not being encouraged, people are being just I would say mentally don't really care anymore, they just don't, they gave up, or what makes us think, what can we do? Because we've done a lot. I feel that especially in Charlotte, we keep our campaigns open, we try to educate, we do a lot of civic, we do so much, but people will not get out of their freaking seats and get out of the door and go and vote.
That's a good point.
There's a lot of barriers for a lot of people to vote. Limited voting hours, the complications with mail-in ballots, the overall disinformation about voting. Republicans have done an exceptional job at keeping urban areas turnout low nationally in general, but especially in purple and red states. And it's how they keep them purple and red is making sure that the predominantly red counties that are typically rural and countryside have an exceptionally high turnout, and that cities like Houston and Dallas and Charlotte have really historically low turnouts. And there's just a lot of ways of doing it. If you have like this last city election, they limited how many polling places they were. They took it from like 35 or 40 polling places to like 20 or 18. You can limit the hours.
Maybe not enough volunteers. Maybe not even. That must be also. I mean, we're talking about a Democratic Party, but they might not count. I mean, I guess their attitudes or whatever they have personally limits people to come into the door and volunteer to do the extra time, to go the extra mile. Because I'm pretty sure there's schools that are offered to have the voting places.
Yeah,
but they probably rejected them.
But the election boards are always bipartisan, so they're nonpartisan. So you have to have a Republican participation. You also have to have the budget for it. And if the state, for example, is not funding that stuff, or so we don't need to spend that much money on that many polling places. 20 will do. It also causes logistical issues where people go, they're not going to bother having that same place I vote at every time. I'm just not going to show up. And you saw that in the elections. Yeah. What was it? Only a few. There was a very low turnout.
There was very few.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, hold on 1 second, Jen. I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't expect you to have all the answers to solve the world's problems, but I do. So when I come back, I'll ask you that question, especially about how we're going to get, or how to get the urban vote out. But we'll talk about that when we come back on Coffee and Pan Dulce right after this. Hi, I'm Christian Cano. Thank you so much for joining us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. And also thank you so much for watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. But also don't forget, you can actually listening to us on your favorite audio podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, and others. Once again, thank you so much for watching us and listening to us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Have a great day. Well, welcome back, everyone. Great conversation. And Momma Ruth, you touched on a question I think everyone's been asking. What do we need to do to get these urban voters, as Jenny said, here in the state that we're in North Carolina, if the Charlotte region and the Raleigh-Durham region and the Asheville region, if they got the vote out 10% higher, let's say 30, 40, 50%, it wouldn't make any difference what the rural areas voted for, because those three areas would determine every statewide race, because there's so many voters in this area. And the big question is, what are we doing? What can we do to get the vote out to get higher? They were having the same challenge in Georgia, were in the Atlanta area and also in their big area, Gainesville, like their college area, whatever the area is, Athens. What do we do to get the vote out to elect Senator Warren and the other senator? And they were able to increase their Atlanta voter percentages 5%, which elected 2 Senate Democrats statewide, because it squashed the suburban vote that was voting for the Republicans. So that's a good point. But one of the things that I've noticed the difference is in the philosophy, the way the Republicans think is if you don't take the time to go out to vote, you shouldn't be able to vote. That's their philosophy. So they create all kinds of obstacles because they see it as, okay, if you can overcome this obstacle, if you can jump this hoop, then okay, you can vote. Democrats see, I need to make it as easy as someone to vote because it's your right to vote. And so there's a difference in philosophies. And as Jenny, I don't know, what do you think I know there's no magical answer, but how do we increase the vote in these urban areas that are so low? I mean, I know people.
We Democrats have got to own their own part in this, and so we can use the excuses of voter ID laws, and we can do all the things, but quite frankly, a lot of that is misinformation or overblown. It's not that much harder to vote in North Carolina than it was 4 years ago.
Sure.
But you wouldn't know that. And Democrats have put too much of a emphasis on pushing back on these changes instead of just saying, hey, the water's fine, come out and vote. It's not that big of a deal. We'll show you the steps. We're not going to where the voters are at. We're not doing clinics. We're not doing fun events. We are the no fun party many times. And I'm telling you, even though voting is the right thing to do, if it doesn't come off, if it comes off as a hassle, if it comes out as no fun, if we don't make it fun, if we don't encourage people, guess what? They won't come out. It's like the old American Dental Association bumper sticker, ignore your teeth and they'll go away. Yeah. And if you ignore the voter and you let the Republicans control the narrative on how hard it is to vote, Republicans sit back and laugh when we make a big deal of voter ID stuff.
It's an excellent point, Jenny.
Is that maybe voter ID may eliminate 5 or 6% of the voting, but if you're in the city of Charlotte, voter turnout's only like 7 or 8%. Yeah, it had nothing to do with the IDs. It had nothing to do with the requirements. If it dropped from 13% the term before, the year before, when we had city elections just a year before, to down to 8%, that was like a 40% drop, and it had nothing to do with IDs. It had to do with voting is you've created this mythos that you're climbing up the hill both ways in snow, like our parents said, oh, it was so tough when I used to walk up
with no shoes.
Yeah. If you let the Republican Party control that narrative, when voting is just as easy in North Carolina as it was in 2016, 2018, and so on and so forth, and you make it seem fun. You make it seem just like any other PSAs. Texas struggled with littering for a long time until they came up with the slogan, don't mess with Texas. Well, that appealed to the people that probably were littering, which is the rednecks throwing their beer cans out of their pickup trucks and things like that. And they're like, oh my God, we shouldn't mess with Texas. It caught on, and littering literally almost went away, and people took pride. It also was fun. It was catchy. Voting has to be that same way. And one of the things that Obama did nationally, and the Obama team and the Obama coalition, is they were doing the rock the vote. They were encouraging people to come out. They were doing a lot of the things connecting with the younger voter. And so millennials turned out in record numbers. And it is literally why Obama won the presidency and why we did so well nationally, and we turned things around. We have to do that every 2 years. We have to encourage and build and foster why you should take pride in voting, and not shame people and say, well, you're a shit human being if you don't turn out. You're lazy. You're
that's a good point.
Like, I'm like, no, well, fuck you. I'll stay home. I'm just like, I will, if you are going to get in a tug and war with me, you're going to lose. And the Democratic Party has done, in general, Whereas conversely, like Stacey Abrams down in Georgia made voting cool, and people were willing to stand in lines in metropolitan Atlanta for 8 or 10 hours. They're like, you know, Stacey sent us here. We made it fun. We're handing out pizzas and bottled waters and make it a festival.
So I have 2 jokes real quickly, and I want to bring Momma Ruth back into this. So the first one is when you were talking about getting. Interestingly, what you're saying, Jenny, is should be theoretically easier now that we know that younger millennials and baby Zs, even without asking them to vote, are voting at higher percentages. So you would think that it would require less coaxing to get them to vote because they're already voting at higher percentages than Gen Xers were when we were their age. And so they already want to vote. It's just getting them out to vote. The second thing is there is this joke for those who watch this show. There's a comedian called George Lopez. It's been around forever. It's kind of my parents' comedian kind of type of individual. His joke is in the Latinx Hispanic community that Hispanics will see a line and they'll jump in line because they'll say, there must be something good going on here, so let's get in line. Hispanics and Latinos have no problem waiting in lines. It's a joke. I'm stereotyping. So my point is, we should make those lines fun, and say, as Momma Ruth is talking about, how do we get, the individuals out to vote? And Jenny, you have an excellent point. Go to where the voters are. Go to South End. Go to Plaza Midwood. Do some crowd canvassing. Get out to vote. After you vote, come and let's have a gathering at this restaurant or something. Take 10 friends.
Do a hot dog barbecue out there.
Yeah, and dismissing the fears of how hard it is to register to vote, how hard it is to vote, and doing the proper PSAs and appealing. And that's one of the things that Stacey did in Georgia, especially in the Atlanta metropolitan area, is eliminating people's fears. Because people ain't going to do it if they think it's going to be hard, or if they, think they're going to get discriminated against or treated poorly.
Sure,
and that's not going to happen. But Democrats have raised such a stink about voter suppression, and I'm not saying we don't do that, but in our messaging, we got to knock that out, and we've got to fight that battle behind doors anyway, and in legislations. But if we don't encourage progressive and even middle of the road voters to come out, you ain't going to go somewhere where you don't feel welcome. That's human nature.
Exactly.
If I go to a party and I got invited by somebody that has given me the stink eye and has no intentions of being nice to me, I'm probably skipping that party.
You know what, Jenny? I've never. We're going to take a quick our last break, but I have never looked at it from that lens before. And you were exact. I never thought about it, and I hope people who are watching this, we're going to share this obviously with everyone. But I really do hope that people watch this. We have made unknowingly or by buying into this voter suppression. They're trying to suppress the vote. They're trying to do this. We have almost made it worse by amplifying it, because you're right. No one wants, as your analogy, no one wants to go to a party that you're invited to. And that's a great analogy. That's like someone saying, hey, I'd like for you to come to the party, but I don't know if you're going to like your ex who's there. And then you're going to think twice. Instead of saying, come to the party, we're going to have a great time.
And the ex was never even invited.
Exactly.
And therein lies the issue, because as many places and many polling stations I've voted in Union County, and I've voted in Mecklenburg County, and I've voted in other states. I can promise you, I've never been slapped in the face or insulted at a polling booth. And let me tell you, I wore rainbow clothes and was just my big old queer self when I went to the polling station there in Union County at that little firehouse. And those people, little pollsters, people working outside, and the people inside, oh, what a cute jacket. And there was those people are volunteering to help you vote.
Sure.
They don't,
we built
they're not there to bite people or hurt people. Voting is not a hard process. But if you create such a mythos around Republicans have done such a good job of voter suppression to the point to where it sounds like it's impossible to vote.
Then they're not going to
average person, that's all they hear. And so they've been conditioned to believe, why bother? Why do it? Why put myself through it?
That is an excellent point. Hey, Mom Ruth, real quick before we take our last break, we don't have. We're going to go into our last segment. I know you've been a part of a lot of efforts in the Charlotte region and so forth about getting Latino, Hispanic voters out and so forth. And I know it's been frustrating because I've seen the efforts every year. We got to get out the votes, and then it's like really, really small percentages. And so I know it's frustrating, because we know what the numbers and we see the people, but they don't come out. So do you see the groups maybe going to try something different, or what are your thoughts on that? I mean,
well, hearing Jenny speak about it, and I had never dig into it and kind of see it through her eyes.
Yep.
It's kind of confusing because now I'm in the middle of understanding the Board of Election, it's kind of stepping us down as Democrat Party, or the Democrats or kind of giving up and not showing their power. So it's kind of, because here out in the community, I know, in fact, that a lot of us have done so much.
Sure, yeah.
So much.
To try to get the people to vote.
And to try to get the votes out there. Education, activities, rallies, restaurant gatherings. I mean, we've even done cookouts. So there's no excuse on our part where we're trying to get people to vote. We're actually as soon as they become U.S. citizens, we tried our best to take them to go get registered as voters. Sure. So I'm not, there's a gap that I'm not understanding anymore. I'm not sure if it has to do with like you mentioned earlier, you said Board of Elections might not have enough funds and they're not providing. But yeah, they might not have funds for only Democratic parties, because I see a big, huge difference.
So
on the other party.
Yeah, you made a good point, Mom Ruth, and I'm going to ask you this question, Jenny, and I know this is going to create a little controversy when I say this, so I'm going to wait till we come back before I say it. But if you like what you're hearing from Jenny on her show, she does have a show that comes on 30 minutes after this show. It's called Two Queers in a Truck. It drops every Wednesday at 11:30. Please listen to her show. We actually tape her show before this one, so you will see stuff on this show that I've stole from her show. I say this every time, so people will say, hey, I thought y'all talked about that. Yes, I do that. Sometimes I get lazy. All the time. So this last commercial is about her show. We'll be right back on Coffee and Pan Dulce right after this.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you. Bye.
Well, welcome back, y'all. And don't forget to join Jenny's show called Two Queers in a Truck. She is in her 5th season now on her show. And on this show, we're in our 7th season. So, wow, it's amazing how many shows we've been doing this. All right, so here's the question. Is it possible, and I got to be careful how I say this and see if I have to edit this, that, Momma Ruth, the groups that I know of here, let's say just in the Charlotte area, the groups that I know of that have been trying to get the Latino Hispanic vote out, is it possible that they are confusing the Latino Hispanic vote with the Spanish vote? So what I'm saying is that, is it possible that the Latino vote, let's say, I'm just going to throw a number. Let's say it's 100,000. There's more than that, 100,000 Latino voters. They're going after a 5% of those 100,000, which are more Spanish-speaking first-generation Latinos, when the majority of Hispanic Latinos are not immigrant Hispanic, they're second, third, fourth generation. The reason I'm asking this question, and I think I brought this up to one of the persons who was trying to get the vote out for the Latino voters, is because in North Carolina, of all of the voters, only 40% of the voters who are Latino and Hispanic are eligible to vote, which means that 60% are not. And it's not because they're not documented, it's because they're just under 18. And so the majority of those 40% of voters are not Spanish-speaking first-generation voters. They're like you. They're like me. And is it possible that it's kind of a loaded question, we're focusing on such a very, very small percentage of people and not focusing on you and me? I don't know if that question was appropriate. So, Jenny, let me let you see if you want to comment on that first, because I don't know if you want to touch that, and then we'll ask Momma Ruth that question.
Well, people that are eligible to vote, let's concentrate on that.
Sure. Okay.
The Mecklenburg County eligible voters that are able to vote, 20% of them are in the Hispanic community, the Hispanic and Latinx ethnicity.
Sure.
But the turnout is exceptionally low in that community.
Yep.
And I'm not picking on that community. The turnout in general is abysmal in the Mecklenburg County. Again, to me, I don't think it's because we haven't reached out to the right people. I think we've just sent the wrong message. And I think there's many people like Momma Ruth, whether they're Hispanic, white, Black, Asian, whatever, they've heard it's hard to get to vote. They've heard from Democrats for the last 20 years about beating the drum. They don't want you voting. They don't want you voting. Well, because the Democrats say that. They're saying, well, they're doing such a good, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just like in sports, one of the things we did, sports is more mental than physical, believe it or not, because it's based on your body goes where your mind tells it to go. Okay. And if you believe you're going to perform at a low level mentally, you're going to have a really bad game. And if you believe, if you vision scoring the touchdown or shooting the game-winning shot, you more often than not, it's called visualization. And we become what we say to ourselves. But if we create an overall arching narrative, and since I've moved to North Carolina, I've heard this, the Republicans aren't saying this. This is a Democratic narrative.
Exactly.
Even with the new state chairperson, I've caught her saying this on Twitter. And if we create a narrative, it's harder to vote. People are going to believe us because they're like, well, they're the experts. That's the Democratic Party saying that. And I'm probably going to vote Democrat. And you know what? Why would I waste my time if it's going to be a hassle? Why the fuck would I go? I don't care what you do until we create fun educational PSAs, just similar to don't mess with taxes. You know, click it or ticket, you know, and the seatbelt thing. If you don't give people a reason, and in the sales business, it was always giving your customer a why. Why would you buy that car? Why would you buy that timeshare? Why would you buy whatever? If it's just like the My Pillow guy. When he was in his heyday and selling all those overpriced pillows that you could probably go down to Walmart and buy for a 20th of the cost. The reason why he sold them is because he made those pillows look amazing. It looked like they were going to walk on water. And so people were going out and buying $100 pillows. And you could get a foam pillow probably from Walmart for $8 or $9. It's a perfectly good pillow. But the hype around that made people get out their credit card and buy these $200 or $300 worth of pillows. And it's the same way with the Teslas. Tesla's done a good job of marketing despite, you know, 170 or 180,000 worth of their cars catching on fire. That their public persona is that they're great cars.
No, that's hey, Jenna, sorry to cut you off, but we only got like 4.5 more minutes, and I want to ask Momma Ruth that same question, and I know it's kind of a complicated question, but I guess there's a message behind my question, and the reason it is because since I have lived here in North Carolina, which has been now 11 years, in the Charlotte region, the Hispanic Latino groups that I have seen who have been trying to get out the vote, it seems like all of their efforts have been on focusing on such a little bitty small community of Spanish speaking only, first generation Latino Hispanics, people who are just becoming American citizens. And that is not the majority of Hispanics. That just happens to be the ones they're focusing on. And it seems like every time I see them going after the Hispanic vote, they go after the 5% of voters and forget the other 95% of the Hispanic voters. So I guess what I'm saying is we can do both. We can focus on that, but then also let's focus in on getting you, Momma Ruth, out to vote, getting me, getting your sons who are,
I think it's a school that started here.
Sure.
And I think it's being followed. Y'all remember Oma? She's the one that was actually the one that started the voting campaigns for the Latino community. So I think it got stuck there where it only limited to a certain amount of people in just a certain amount of countries.
Sure.
Not only the Latinos. That's what I've noticed. We got to keep in mind that Latin America, it's broad. But there's like, just the way we travel north, south, east and west, the same way it's in Latin America. So a lot of these people, a lot of these grassroots that stayed following that old school or just following that range, which is, Colombian, Venezuelan, and not part of the original or the more, I guess, broader Hispanic that you're right. There's a higher percentage, because there's a lot more Mexicans descendants that might have third, second generations that are up to 18, 20s, 25th. For instance, my kid. I have at home 4 of my 5 boys are ready to vote. They're already at that age, So my youngest one is only 16, but I'm over here talking to him and making sure that he understands what voting is. But you're right. They're not captivating. They're not capturing their mentality. They're not calling
it's almost,
them.
It's almost like we haven't learned from them in North Carolina, for an example, since that's what we're kind of talking about, Hispanic Latino voters. We don't have to recreate the wheel. All we have to do is look at states that have gone through what we have gone through. Texas, Colorado, Arizona, California, Florida. In Texas, for an example, where there are so many Hispanic, Tejano, Latino voters, there's very little with the Republican Party, for an example. You don't see the Republican Party in Texas going, Voto 2024. All of their campaigns to get Hispanic voters are in English. And Hispanics in Texas are voting more Republican than Democrat. And what I have always said is you can do both. You can not only go after the Spanish voter, but also go after the more assimilated voter. Because
not only that, they can change the strategics where let's for instance, they do a commercial of voting. Why do it in Spanish if voting is in English? They can see my face as Latina, but if you're a U.S. citizen and you're older than 18 years old, come out and vote. We're doing a rally. That's
because this is what I've noticed, and I want to hear what Jenny has to say, and then we have to close out real quickly, because Jenny's grandparents, and I apologize, Jenny, if I'm bringing that into, but your grandparents were immigrants here to the United States. And if I remember the history correctly, that they spoke another language. And I'm curious if, would they have been more encouraged, do you think, to vote if, let's say, someone had come to them and said, I want you to go out to vote, and they said it in German, or would they be more encouraged to say in English? And the reason I'm asking that question is because many members of my family speak Spanish, but it's a language that we talk to each other with. When someone else talks to it with me, to us, it's this, I can speak English. It's almost like an insult because it's the assumption that I'm not as good as you are.
It comes off as pandering to me.
That's the word I was using.
My grandparents did not speak German outside of the home for a lot of reasons, because by the time that they were having children, we were in a war with Germany. So there was that. Because they came over pre World War One. Or actually my grandmother came in over right after World War One, but before World War Two. And so for a lot of immigrants, they learn English pretty fast, or at least enough, but they typically are going to watch English speaking TV. They're going to buy English speaking newspapers to improve their English skills. So if we're just concentrating on the new arrivals, no matter who we're talking about, whether it's Ukrainian people, Hispanic, whomever, that's one battle. The other battle is the general consensus to all communities of having faces that look like you. One of the reasons Stacey Abrams was so successful in getting out the vote is because there's a high congregation of Black people in the greater Atlanta area. By her taking charge and really encouraging and making voting fun, making it worthwhile and all that, they saw a face that looked like hers. Young, interjected, professional, urban. And it's like the cool kids are doing it. Just the way Michelle Obama did in 2008 and many of the other elections, because she is still involved with that bring out the vote, rock the vote type thing. And her advocacy is like, oh, if Michelle Obama is doing it and Oprah is doing it, and if Jennifer Lopez is doing it, you don't have them coming out speaking Spanish. You say you have a Jennifer, a J-Lo, or a celebrity that's in the Latinx community saying, come out and vote, and then they say it in English, and they don't specify Spanish speaking or all that. You got to encourage it in a way that is both fun. There's got to be PSAs and workshops, and there's got to be an accessibility to be able to even vote, and an education thing that is both fun and informative and incentives. And we've got to figure out ways to make it more of an event that's worth doing, and not be guilted into it. Not be guilted into voting, because I can tell you, you can probably scare people to vote, as we saw in Ohio when abortion was on the ballot. But that's not sustainable. We need to build a framework, no matter what the community is, and making sure that, one, we see faces that look like us, whether it's queer, whether it's Hispanic, whether it's Black, whether it's Asian. Hey, the water's just fine. Voting is easy. Here's the steps. Here's an event where you can come to and get a free beer or a free sugar cookie, or hey, bring out the kids. We're going to have an old-time picnic and ice cream social. And because we know how much Biden loves ice cream, and do fun things. I've sat on many of the Michelle Obama calls and the ones that Mark Cuban does as well, to get people to come out and vote, encouraging voting. And they're fun events. Make voting fun. Make it appealing. Appeal to the better.
Make it inclusive.
Exactly.
And not scary.
Those are. This has been a really this has been better than I thought. Not to say I didn't think it would be good, but you opened my mind on some topics, and I hope that those who are watching the show understand that, we can chew gum and walk at the same time. The Latino Hispanic community and all communities can chew gum and walk at the same. We can focus on Spanish-speaking voters, but we can also focus on the other voters as well.
But you know what? Christian, we are forgetting a huge community. And I personally feel so bad sometimes because I encounter them in meetings and all these events, or the Brazilian community.
Yes.
They're here, and they don't speak Spanish. And they don't speak Spanish.
They speak Portuguese.
But it's not about, but it's not about, if you're in this country, you got to understand, once you step into the U.S. territory, you got to adapt yourself. Go learn English, speak the language. Once you become legalized and you understand there's a voting procedure, go out and vote. We don't have to go and speak to them in Portuguese, but we can, like you mentioned, we have to include them. Let's be more inclusive into just our community, our Charlotte, our state, not how you look, or if Jenny is from, other country. No, Jenny, welcome, come, let's go and vote. That's all we have to start doing.
Yeah. Good point. Excellent point. Hey, listen, we've run out of time. We've gone over just a couple of minutes. But before we leave, I do want to. I know. But before we leave, and Momma Ruth, please welcome back. We want to have you next week and the week after, and every week you can come with us. Before we leave, I am going to touch on our pendejo of the week. This is the Pendejo Chronicles. All right, here we go. The Pendejo of the week. We posted an encore show. This was we dropped this show on January the 10th. It was an encore show that we did with Janice Robinson of Red, Wine, and Blue of North Carolina. And the topic was unmasking Moms for Liberty hate. We talked about Moms for Liberty. And of course, after this show, we did this show. And we did that show in 2022. All right. And we did the encore show when we were taking our hiatus. We dropped it on January the 10th. Well, we specifically bumped the show, and those who don't understand what bumping means, on social media, we bumped the show, did a small advertising to a specific targeted group. And because of all of the hypocrisy with the Moms for Liberty, especially one of the founders who is on the school board of Sarasota, whose husband has been alleged raped someone, who's having a three-way, and all kinds of the sexual stuff. We wanted to bump this show with the LGBTQ community because this is something that has been on their mind. This group has been attacking this community for 3 years, and now it's the hypocrisy is coming out. So we specifically bumped this show for that group. Anybody can watch that show, but it was bumped. We've had people comment, the trolls, the MAGA people, about pedophiles and this Moms for Liberty, they're protecting kids and this. If you see the comments, please understand that the only people that would have seen that show are people that are cruising gay and lesbian topics on social media. So I just want to highlight that when you see trolls following these shows, the only way this would have come up on their feed is if they had in their browser gay, Will and Grace, whatever. So I always find it humorous when we have these Proud Boys who like to troll us. Especially on Jenny's show. Jenny's show is called Two Queers in a Truck. The only way that will pop up on your browser if you were looking for the word queer. You're not going to find it. Where's the closest church? So I just think it's hilarious that these people who post, who do that, they must know that we know how they saw this show. And so I just want
Christian, I really don't think they're that smart.
Okay.
Is that somehow I don't think they understand how the algorithm works.
Yes.
And that they don't know because they don't see us typing in our keywords and all that.
They don't know what we see. Yeah, exactly.
So they don't understand any of that, and they don't manage their own commercial pages.
Sure.
And so when they probably think that, oh, we're getting over on them, or we've got the secret sauce on the find all the LGBT shows or whatever. And I don't think
they know that we
they
know
understand
how they saw
that
it.
This is like we're setting out bait with a mousetrap, and that these little conservatives wander over there to take the cheese, and then whammo, we get them, and then we make fun of them to increase the feedback, which increases our ranking in the algorithm.
Exactly.
And they don't realize, because they don't actually watch the show, because we laugh about it on the show.
Yeah.
They just comment on the Facebook page. So they're falling for the tactic that we're using, because they have, I'm just telling you from the engagement I've had with them, they ain't sending the best and brightest.
Yes. So I equate this to, and this is terrible, ladies, if you're a married lady, cover your ears from what I'm about to say. I equate this to not just a lady, a married person. If you are married and your spouse is on the computer and you walk in the room and your spouse turns the computer off real quickly, and then you say, I'm going to buy some groceries, and you go and open the computer and you pop up, and then a porn pops up. It didn't just pop up. It popped up because somebody was looking for that porn. So I equate it as the spouse going, I don't know how it happened. It just, so you have to be, we know how it happened. So what I'm saying to those trolls, clear your browser and then it won't pop up anymore. So that's how I'm going to leave that conversation. Any spouses are probably going to immediately go to their other spouses' cell phones and stuff like that. But I'm just saying is that's
the people
anyway.
The people that watch our show, especially if they've watched it all the way to the end like this, they're not the ones that are getting upset on our Facebook page.
Exactly. Yeah.
99% of the people that get upset on there, they put in LGBT, they put in gay, they put in trans, they put in whatever, drag queen.
Oh, they put in Hispanic, Latino, whatever.
Yeah.
They put in something that they don't like because they're looking for it.
We put in the keywords.
Yes. Yeah.
And just like little bait, just like a little piece of cheese on the mousetrap. And they come scurrying in thinking, oh, well, nobody would certainly hurt me if just they're giving me cheese because they're nice.
Yep.
And they grab the cheese and they go, whammo. They just don't even realize that that
we're actually using them to get exactly.
Yeah, they don't know.
Speaking of that, show has ended. We're going to go around the Brady Bunch screen. Tell us who you're going to be. But speaking of that, the next show, we want to thank you for watching this show. The next show that we're doing, I will openly admit, is a clickbait show. Jenny knows exactly what I'm talking about. Periodically, we put a title that is just clickbait. We may not even talk about it, but just the title will get people to watch us, especially the trolls who will watch it. The next show that we tape is called Did MAGA Turn GOP Men into Queens? So we will be talking about, did the MAGA movement turn all of these GOP men into the biggest queens? Because Jenny and I have been watching DeSantis. What's the guy from South Carolina? Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham. And we have a local city council person here that I was almost going to put the face on our thing, but I did not. But this person is very drama, and I have noticed within the GOP, we used to have Mitt Romney's, John McCain's. Now
we have Tariq still in there in the city council?
Which one are you talking about?
Is Tariq still there?
Yes. We weren't going to say his name, or did I say his name? Yes, he is.
No, I'm asking the city council.
Yes, he is.
Tariq still there? Oh,
he is.
Okay.
Okay, so
All right.
anyway, so that's the topic. We may talk 2 minutes on it, and then we'll talk about some of the others, but that's our clickbait. So just to let you know, please join the next one's show, and I'm sure we'll get thousands of viewers on that one and listeners. So Brady Brent Screen, Jenny, where are you going to be 30 seconds or less after this show drops?
Just pretty much working and looking forward to February. And I love Valentine's month.
Yep.
And it's just a fun time of the year. And the days are getting longer because we've moved away from the winter solstice. So
yep.
I love spring. I love spring forward. I love longer days and more sunshine. I miss the sun and warmer weather. So yes, South Texas girl here that does not like winter. This is not fun for me.
And Momma Ruth, where are you going to be after this show drops?
After the show drops, I'll be here looking forward also, as Jenny said, looking for the best month of the whole year, which is my month, February, my birthday coming up. Woo! And just enjoying time, enjoying life day by day.
Excellent. Well, listen, it has been wonderful to have you back, and please, we need to see more of you. It's been great to have your perspective. We want to thank those who've joined us on once again, and hopefully we'll get Raphael on the next show, and also welcome back Alexa. Hopefully we'll get her back next week. And Barbara, we can't wait to see you. We haven't seen Barbara in 2024. She's been doing a lot of things, so we'll be having her back. So we're going to dance out, and so we'll see you next week on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Bye-bye, y'all. Here we go. Bye, y'all.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce, and we had a good time. And we brought a familiar face back, Momma Ruth. We were not Momma Ruthless. And so we had a great show, great topic, great insights, and all the Momma Ruth wisdoms that we sorely missed. Y'all have a great week. See you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Next up, thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce. Next up is Two Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.
Coffee and Pan Dulce. How's that? Coffee and Pan Dulce.
All right, here we go. Again. Okay, so I'm gonna read some data, and then we'll kind of talk about the Hispanic vote. Here we go. Hey Jen, that's a good question. And Momma Ruth, you asked that question because that was the question they were having in Georgia the last two elections, and they kind of, I'm not saying they found the answer, but they kind of came up with an answer. So I'll ask that question. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to ask a question, and I'm not going to tell you what the question is when I come back. Here we go.